Alright, so let's make some Marry Me Chicken meatballs. I've got 3 pounds of ground chicken. I'm making enough base meatballs to make another recipe later on in the week. I put in about just under a quarter cup of garlic powder, about a quarter cup of milk. Ended up putting about 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs. It's the recipe called for 1.5, but it was too loose for my liking, so I added another half a cup. About a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt. Added 3 eggs, 1 for each pound. And going to give that a nice little mix. See how loose that is? I didn't like that, so I was like, I'm adding more crumbs. Still didn't like it. A little more. You live and you learn whenever you're in the kitchen. So I took some of it out and left a little bit. We're going to grate about a quarter cup of Parmesan cheese into them. This is for the Marry Me meatballs. Like I said, I made a base recipe for the other that I can do anything I want with later on in the week. But about a quarter cup of Parmesan cheese. Added about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And that's all it was to make it the Marry Me chicken meatballs. So I've got my 15-inch cast iron skillet getting hot. And apparently I am too short to realize I did not quite have my skillet in the spot that I wanted it in the frame. So we're getting that hot. It's got the oil in it. I use a little cookie scoop to get the meatballs out. Makes them uniform. They all cook about the same. That way, you know, if you are counting macros or anything like that, then this will be a lot easier to... I don't like where I put that, so I'll move it in a second. But it's a lot easier to count everything whenever you have a specific weight or whatever for each meatball. So getting them all in here in a nice little ring. I will say, this 15-inch skillet is probably the best thing I've ever bought. It's a Lodge brand, and I use it for everything now. I love it. And then in a few minutes, give them a little flip, see how they do, see if they're stuck or anything like that. I'm not even squishing them, I'm just barely trying to shake them off the bottom. So they're all... That one's a little stuck. Get them moving. Make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom so they don't burn. We're going to flip them over to the bottom side. Give them a little squish so that they're a little bit easier to handle. Or you can put all of these in, you can put them in here and then put them in the oven at about 375 for, I'd say, about 20 minutes, and they should be done. I always just leave them on the skillet and brown them in the skillet. Make sure you get the sides done so that everything's good and cooked through. I will say I do have a struggle on some of them because I don't want to sit on the side I want them to. But make sure they get all the sides. Everything's good and browned. And then we're going to take them out and put them on a little plate so that I can get the next batch in the skillet. And I have one more tiny batch after this that I actually end up having to fix, but all of the meatballs are done after these. Now, I've got my butter. I don't have heavy cream, so the way to change that up, I had whole milk, and so I'm adding whole milk and butter to give me that like the richness from the heavy cream. And I don't know why I did that, but I decided to put everything in that measuring cup. Probably shouldn't have put the cheese in it. I didn't want to dirty up another dish. So you're going to mix that until everything is incorporated. It is going to take a lot of mixing for that butter. Now we're going to put sun-dried tomatoes. And I actually take them out in a second and decide that I wanted to chop them up instead of leaving them halved like that, and put a little bit of the oil in there. And now they're all chopped up. I took them out. The things you decide to do as you're cooking. Because neither one of us particularly care for tomatoes, so I was like, it'll be easy to eat around. And then I was like, no, I don't want to. So I'm giving it a good mix. See, all that butter's still hanging out. You can use pasta sauce or pasta water, and it'll emulsify the butter and the milk together so that everything comes together a lot more smoothly. And I decided to put the meatballs in prematurely. I ended up taking them out and putting the pasta water in to be able to get it emulsified a little bit better. And now I'm going to use protein pasta. I'm putting in some boiling water, and I lost more footage. I thought it was all gone, to be completely honest. But here is my finished product. And I gave it a try. It actually needed some more salt and pepper, in my opinion, so do that to taste. And yeah, Marry Me Chicken Meatballs was delicious, and I'm so excited for y'all to try this.